So we've seen many startups in the world that has changed our life, right? Many are still transforming the way we live. And we could expect many more to come that will influence the way we think, influence the way we work, influence the way we do our business. So all these startups will have or already having wonderful products or services. And above all, these are being driven right from the ideation to the maturity with a very powerful strategy to make it sustainable in the market. Once again, good morning to all of you. Let me take 1 minute to introduce myself and my organization to you. I am Santhosh Udayanan, founder and CEO of Excel Business Solutions. Before starting in Excel, I used to be the global head of technology for managed services of Ernst & Young, EY, and I also played a couple of other roles with EY, worked with IBS and Project Management Institute as well. In Excel, my organization stands for Enhancing Excellence, and Excel stands for Enhancing Excellence. We work with IT organization, whether it is startup or scale-up or corporate, and we offer business and management consulting to them. So for startup, we actually work end-to-end, right from conducting the feasibility study, working with them during the product development, and even going up to setting up the service management model, operations model, etc. And with the corporates, we work with them in driving the delivery excellence, the process excellence, driving agile transformation, setting up the PMOs and recalibrating PMO, and so on and so forth. While doing all this, we also come across many upskilling requirements, and we do take care of them right from the entry level to the managerial and leadership level. Being an authorized partner of PMI, Project Management Institute, we also offer all set of trainings and certifications from PMI. So with that, let me get into the topic. What I'm going to share with you today is a set of observations that we had, a set of tips, best practices, and some kind of recommendations based on our consulting engagements with the startups. There are a lot of startups in the world. Almost all developed countries and developing countries promote startup and build a very robust startup ecosystem in the countries. As a result of it, we actually see a lot of startups coming up. We could see a lot of, unicorns as well. You could see around 400, close to 500 in US, China with 300 plus, and in India, it has doubled in the last couple of years. It has gone up to 90. Every startup need not become a unicorn to become successful. The success of the startup depending on the goal that we set for the organization, the vision that we set for the organization. But the most important thing is that we need to be successful. Financially successful, we need to make profit. Our product should actually add value to the customer consistently, sustainably. That's where we become successful, right? Is that the scenario everywhere? Not really. Not all startups are successful. Studies say that around 80 to 90% of the startups fail. And they fail, 10% of them fail in the first year. Another 70% actually fail in year 2 to year 5. Due to various reasons. But one of the major reasons why they fail is misreading the market demands. Not properly understanding what is the requirement of the market, what is the demand of the market, and jumping into developing the products, thinking that it will change the entire world. This can actually lead to, insufficient cash flow, insufficient funding, and many other issues as well, right? Is it something impossible? No. We have seen many startups being successful. Okay? And we need to have the right vision, the right goal, the right strategy, and the approach to make it successful. So what I'm going to introduce is a very simple 4-step framework. The first thing that we need to do is to analyze and understand what is the current state. Is there a real business problem existing in the market? And is it being addressed at the moment? If it is not, then can we address it? Can we think about a solution to address it? The moment you believe that there is a solution, then design for the future state. You need to strategize for that. And once you have the right strategies put in place, I'm not talking about very heavy exercises to be done for that, but there are certain things that we need to take care. Once that is done, we can transform from the current state to the future state by building and deploying our solution. But the world never ends there, right? The strategies will not be 100% correct throughout the journey, because we are talking about years and years of journey, right? Developing and rolling out the product to the market and sustaining it. So we need to look for opportunities to improve it continuously. So that's the optimizing part. So while we study the current state, we need to look at what is a business problem. Is it a business problem actually? And as I said, is it really need a solution immediately? If it needs a solution, is it something already existing, fully or partially? Then keep away from that, and if it is fully existing. There are situations where we will come up with some bright ideas, and then we will see whether it can be fitted into solving some business problems. That is also fine, right? But somehow, when we will either start with the idea or we will start with the business problem to deal with. The next immediate thing that we need to think about, who are the potential customers? Very, very important. Because this is where we are going to sell, right? We need to talk to them, we need to understand them, we need to understand the behavior of the customer, what is actually the burning issues for them. And if it is going to really, really address that, then we have a good probability of success. Right? We need to really look at the paying capacity, what is, whether it is a B2B or a B2C, which geography you are going to deal with, many other things. Right? And then, if you don't have anybody who is providing a solution to that, you're lucky. Very, very rare, right? We'll have a lot of competitions. So, that is where we need to look at what is being offered by the competitors. We need to do the proper market study. We need to do the proper competitor analysis. What is being offered by the competitor? Can we do something different, something more than this? In terms of adding value to the customer, in terms of the capability, in terms of the features, in terms of the pricing, whatever it is. Is there a differentiator that I can think about? If yes, very well, we can proceed then. And then we need to assess, am I ready for the rise? Can I do it? Do I have the competency? Do I have the domain competency? Do I have the technical competency? We may not have everything, right? But can we build it? Can we build it? Is something doable for us? Do we have enough funding to start with? We may not have the entire thing, but do we have enough funding to start with? So assess and see, can we do it? And then, once you've done this kind of preliminary analysis, studied the current state, that is where you need to put all these things into a business canvas. Look at what are the kind of, and I'm not talking about very, very heavy exercises or heavy documentations here. We're talking about business canvas is a one-pager. It talks about what is our create strategy, what are the customer segments, what are the kind of the partners that we are looking at, what are the kind of revenue streams that we are looking at, what are the cost factors which are going to influence this, and so on and so forth. Why it is very important to understand the customer segment, it is very important to understand how we want to reach to each of the customer segment. Look at the paying capacity of the customer, look at the price, and that will influence your pricing strategy. And all of them needs to be thought about. And then you need to look at the vision and the roadmap of the product or service accordingly. How I'm going to build it. How I'm going to segment put it into different releases of the product. And each release, what is it going to do? Am I going to target different customer segments by each of the product increment? Or am I going to actually keep adding different features or different capability to the product as we move on? decide on the product roadmap accordingly. Once you do that, link these two to your marketing strategy. Why? Because you have already studied your market, you have already studied your customers. You also have a very well thought about product roadmap. So you need to have a marketing plan and a strategy which would actually connect these two, the segment as well as the product roadmap. So do that accordingly. Very importantly, we need to know what we are going to fund, what we can fund ourselves, where we need to start getting the funding, when we can expect our product to generate revenue. We may not be 100% accurate, doesn't really matter, but at least start thinking about all this. At least you know that after 16 months or 18 months or 24 months, I need to get funding. And you need to work towards that, isn't it? So it is very important that even at the initial stages, you have a fair amount of understanding how the funding is going to be done for this. I don't need to talk about technology because all of you are technology experts. But get the right technology, keeping in mind the 10-year, 15-year vision about your product, not about the next immediate 6 months or 12 months, right? We are talking about a product which has to be in the market for next few decades. So decide the right technology. I've seen many startups struggling with the human resource. They would actually start with somebody thinking that I can do everything, right from a CEO to CTO to COO and everything, business development and marketing. But maybe good to start with, but have a good strategy for how you're going to get the human resource. What are the kind of skill set that you need? What are the kind of competencies that you need? And then plan for them to hire in few years. All these strategies, at least you need to have it for the next 3 years. Every time, have good clarity about what's going to happen in the next 3 years. At least what is that we want to happen in the next 3 years. Process and governance may not be so relevant. That's what we think. We don't need heavy processes, that is true. But we may need very thin, lean processes and governance in place because we are talking about a few people working together, right? They should be clear about the way of working. They should know what they have to do, who is going to do what, right? So we need to have very thin, lean processes and governance in place. And last but not the least, we should definitely focus on what is core to us and what is not core to us. Because it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of effort and money on building the non-core services for us. You can always take it from somebody who is an expert. I will give you some examples of non-core. There are a lot of people who are specialized in digital marketing and branding, right? So why do we build that competency among us? We have many other things to focus on initially when you work on the product. For the quality assurance, for example, we need to do testing within the organization, the manual testing or the functional testing, automation testing, etc. But when it comes to security testing or performance testing, there are experts in the market. Why should we actually try to do that? And if we don't have the competency, that doesn't mean that we should skip that. We should actually reach out to the people who can do it for us. The product information development, I've seen many of them actually skipping it. You need to come up with the right kind of pitch deck, the right sales deck, the right, the user manuals and help files and the training material. Why do we need all those experts in content development to be working with the startups? There are people in the market who can actually do it for us. Make use of it. So some of the non-core services may become core services depending on the product or service that you are offering. But the key message is look at what is core to you and what is non-core to you. Okay, and then the non-core, don't try to invest in that. Try to leverage the experts in the market for that. Then I move on to the next phase. And this is where we need to start building the product. We're going to transform, right? How do we transform? We are building the solution. Initially, we need to look at what is that market is looking at, right? So we have done an initial study. We have generated some ideas. And these are still hypotheses, right? We have not tested it in the market. They're still hypotheses. We need to take it to the market or at least potential customers, a few of the potential customers, to see what they think about this product. What do you think about our ideas? That is where we need to come up with a minimum viable product. And the investment on your minimum viable product is not for selling, it is actually for discovery. What do we discover here? Is my product making sense? For whom? It is definitely making sense for whom? Me. But I need to see whether it is making sense for the potential customer. So that is where I actually take the MVP to the market. But the MVP need not be a heavy product. Don't invest too much into MVP. You don't need a fully functional product as an MVP. You need a very, simple one. Key functionalities probably it's working. Some of them could be even static pages. But the key objective is to drive the message that we can actually solve the problem for you. And what do you think about this particular solution? And get their feedback and fine-tune our strategies. Some stages we do this as part of assets or even strategies. But to start with, definitely see we have an MVP. Once you are done with the minimum viable product, and you're convinced that the market is, excited about your product, that is where we need to start productizing it. The people are not just looking at a working software. Whenever you come up with some releases, especially during the initial stages, make sure that we are looking at a marketable release. Something that we can actually take to the market, and every increment is going to excite the customer. So there's a term which I'm taking from the Discipline Agile of Project Management Institute, and that is minimum business increment. It is very simple. It's a product increment that makes a business sense to the customer. So when you work on a product, work on building the product, look at how you groom it, how you prioritize it. You prioritize it in a way that now you're building portions of your product or pieces of your product which is making sense to the customer. It's a simple technique to groom your backlog. Okay, so that is minimum business increment. And your investment in minimum business increment, MEI, is for returns. You want to drive the product increment using MBIs so that you get the returns as quickly as possible from the market. So this is where, from we move into the development after a few months. When you start with the MVP, you don't need a very strong process or anything. You have a very fluid backlog. You're working with something which is very fluid, not very concrete. And later on, as you move on, you get your team familiar with the architecture. You have proven the architecture. Your team gets familiar with the domain, and all of them. They start working with each other very well. So that is where you need to look at accelerated delivery, continuous delivery. You think about continuous integration, continuous validation, continuous deployment, everything. You can start earlier, no problem, depending on the maturity of the team. And then it is very, very important that, being a startup, which is 5 people, 10 people, doesn't really matter. We need to have our own way of working identified. Don't go with any heavy process if it is not required. Look at your organization. Every organization is unique. Every product is unique. Every team is unique because we work with different technology, different domain, different timelines, different pressure. So everything is unique. So you decide what is required for you. You choose your own way of working. Very simple, very, very lean, thin processes for you. And then continuously keep evolving that, the way of working. And evolving way of working is part of optimizing. We have a vision, we have a strategy, we have set our goals, and we work against that. Not everything would actually go as we expect, right? There will be things which are working for us, there will be things which may not actually work for us. We should be smart enough to identify the problems, come up with potential solutions for that, try that out. We do that, right? So we have heard about the PDCA cycles and the PDSA cycles and everything. We do that. But the key thing is identify a potential solution for a problem which is proven. If it is not proven, what happens? You will fail. Every failure will help us to learn something. But is that our objective? To fail and learn? No. Our objective is to succeed faster. So you need to come up with a proven solution which can be tried for that particular problem. That is where you get a consultant to help you. That is where you actually, refer to some of the, the toolkits like the Discipline Agile or whatever it is, where you get a lot of information on what are the kind of proven solutions, used in this kind of context. So that is how you can drive it. So always think about lean concepts. The lean talks about system thinking and all. Why is it important? Whenever there is a problem, we start looking at people who made this mistake. No. Even the brightest people, the star performers, cannot actually deliver the best if you don't have a right system to support them. So look at the system and see how the system can be improved that you can deliver. So to conclude, I believe the successful startups are not accidental. It is the result of orchestrated, intelligent effort. We need to have the right elements in place. So thank you everybody for your patient listening.